wouldn't think that's so good. It's pretty tough. I am so excited to be back. She said I'm local, and I am. I love that. Y'all realize because I travel so much, and you're going to hear that as I talk for the next hour or so, anytime I get to sleep in my own bed, I'm a happy camper. Do I not appear well rested? I got to hang out last night. I got to have a glass of wine with my husband. Life is good. So I am very excited to be back, and we had so much fun the last time, so I'm excited to be here. I do feel like though, since we're making you wait to eat, you know, it's so late in the morning, energy levels. I think the first thing that we should get to do is everybody should get a piece of candy. What do y'all think about that? So here's what we're going to do. My friend Monica in the back there is going to start a bag of candy in the back corner and the back corner. I'm going to start one here and one here. Here's what I need everybody to do for me. I want you to take one piece of candy and I want you to pass the bag to the next person. Right? You can pick whatever candy you want. Just grab a piece of candy and pass the bag to the next person. Everybody should get one piece of candy. That is your candy. You are welcome to eat that candy now. If you decide to wait and eat it later, you will get another piece of candy. Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do. While you are passing your candy bag, I have another little exercise for you. So what I would like for you to do is underneath your seat, you'll notice there's a little half sheet of paper. What I would like for you to do is this. It's a very simple exercise. You're going to have to get a pen out. And I'm going to give you very specific instructions. You're going to work alone. So no talking, no chit-chat, eyes on your own paper, eyes on your own paper, eyes on your own paper. All right, and what I'm going to have you do is this. Are you all ready for your instructions? Using one line and one line only, turn it into a 6. Using one line and one line only, turn it into a 6. Once you have solved the puzzle, just quietly turn your piece of paper over and wait for the rest of the room, okay? So just see what you can come up with. I'm not going to give you any additional instructions. Using one line and one line only, turn it into a 6. Once you've solved it, turn your piece of paper over and wait for the rest of the group. Go. No talking, no chit-chat. It's just you. See what you can do. Eyes on your own paper, eyes on your own paper. Once you've solved it, you can quietly turn your piece of paper over and wait for the next group. Wait for the rest of the group. Shh. No questions, no comments. Using one line and one line only. Turn it over. Looks like some of you have come up with some stuff. I'll tell you what I'm going to let you do. Some of you are looking a little stumped. Here's what I'm going to give you. I'm just a couple of seconds here. What I'd like you to do is, if you would like, feel free to turn to your neighbor and see if your neighbor can come up with something. Maybe if you put your heads together. Maybe if you work together. Maybe you just need more brain power. See if somebody around you got it. See if somebody around you got it. When I said using one line, you in your head thought straight line. Because I didn't say that, did I? But sometimes we just assume, don't we? How about this one? How many of y'all, when you looked at this, you saw a Roman numeral? I didn't say Roman numeral though, did I? And y'all realize I haven't spoken Roman all morning. It's not like I just all of a sudden switched to Roman, right? But once you saw it as a Roman numeral, it was really hard to see it any other way, wasn't it? Y'all, that's exactly what happens with problem solving and dealing with difficult people and difficult situations. Is that once we make an assumption about how we view this, how this is, how they are, what they're going to do, we kind of get tunnel vision, don't we? You know, solutions don't come inside the tunnel. Solutions happen outside the tunnel. We have to look for ways to find solutions outside of the way we've always seen it. I think we have to challenge ourselves to see situations, to see people, to see problems from another point of view so that we can see new potential solutions. Doesn't that make sense when you think about it? I think it's all about seeing things from a new point of view. Well, if anybody ever watched, and this is so random, but does anybody remember that television show that used to be on? It's in syndication now, but called Third Rock from the Sun? Anybody remember that? Did y'all watch the show? For those of you that didn't watch it, it was a very ridiculous show. But it was a sitcom, and the whole premise of the show is that it's a group of aliens from another planet that came down and lived in Ohio, which I personally think makes it even funnier. And the whole premise was that it's these aliens, and they were seeing things that you and I would take for granted, things that you and I would never think anything of, but it was seen through the eyes of an alien. I want to challenge every single one of you to go back to work and be an alien. Think of yourselves as an alien. If you had to look at every difficult person, every difficult situation, everything that makes you angry, and you chose to see it through new eyes, think about how you might be able to solve that situation differently. And I think that's really the heart of understanding emotional intelligence. And that's what we're going to look at. Now, I hope the candy bags got passed, but in the spirit of talking about candy, I'm going to have you do a quick group exercise. Seriously, y'all, this is just a minute. I want you to talk to the people around you. So get in a group, maybe no less than 4, no more than 6, something like that. And I want you to talk to the people around you, and I want you to rank America's best-selling candy brands. So just whatever you think, what do you think would be the best-selling candy brands? So rank those in order of best-selling to Lisa, okay? That's the like at the top. So okay, take a couple minutes for Lisa to do that. Give me a chance to finish passing the candy bag. Best-selling candy bag. What do you think? Because my suspicion is y'all would like to actually know, since I just made you do that. So here are the actual correct answers. Did everybody get them all right? There you go. Now, this seems like a completely ridiculous and pointless exercise, and it is. But it is a means to an end. So here's what I'm going to have you do. I want you to continue this for just another second. And I want you to turn back to the people at your table. And if you remember, or the people sitting next to you, if you remember, everybody, we passed the candy bags, so everybody should have gotten a piece of candy. So this was filler. So now what I want you to do is I want you to turn to the people sitting next to you, and I want you to tell them, did you eat your candy? Why or why not? Did you eat the candy?
I didn't want to keep up with it.
You didn't want to keep up with it, so you went to I'm sorry. I love with that. Yes. Oh, she said, sorry, that if you didn't eat it, you got another piece. Did anybody notice that? Anybody else catch that? Yeah. If you eat it, you get another piece. So some people thought it was the opposite. Oh, interesting. Ooh, she said, what does it mean if you ate half? Ooh, you're indecisive.
I'm saving mine for later, but also it wasn't chocolate, so it wasn't as enticing to me.
Oh, so you're saving it for later, but it wasn't chocolate, so it wasn't as enticing. You know there is chocolate on the bottom. There is, you just didn't dig.
I know.
Sometimes you gotta be more persistent. There's the lesson there. How many of y'all did not eat it because you caught the fact that I said if you don't eat it, I'll give you another piece later? How many of y'all heard that? You heard it, but you didn't care.
You said it doesn't matter because you're going to get another piece.
Oh, it doesn't matter, so go ahead and eat it. Okay, I did say that if you don't eat it, you get another piece. So here's what I'm going to do, is everybody can have another piece. I'm going to pass it back again. So feel free to grab another bite of candy if you would like. There really is a method to my madness. Now this is my way of introducing you all to the marshmallow test. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the marshmallow test. This is a pretty cool little deal. The marshmallow test was actually a study that was done at Stanford University back in the 60s. And y'all know those wacky 60s. Stanford University. And what they did was this. They took 4-year-old children and they put them in a room by themselves with a table and a chair, just the child, the chair, and the table, and one marshmallow. And the facilitator told the child, this is your marshmallow. You can eat the marshmallow. I'm going to go run some errands. When I come back, if you have not eaten the marshmallow, then I will reward you with a second marshmallow. Now, how many of y'all think those kids just ate those marshmallows?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I thought too. I thought for sure. And maybe I'm thinking about my own childhood, but you might have noticed by looking at me, I don't turn down a lot of marshmallows. So I really felt like most kids. No, y'all know 2/3 of those children waited for the second marshmallow. Isn't that amazing? Here's what's even more interesting, though, about this particular study, is that this study, because of where it was done and the children that were used, they used kids of the professors and teaching assistants and things like that. So they actually had access to these children 12 and 14 years later as these kids were getting ready to graduate from high school. So they went back and looked at these kids again, and they talked to their teachers, they talked to their parents, and they looked at their academic records, they looked at what these kids were doing, and this is what they came up with. And I'm going to share this with you. This is actually from a book called The EQ Edge, which is Emotional Intelligence. It's a great book. And this is what it says. The kids who had gobbled up a single marshmallow were having 1 or 2 problems. As a group, they were less adept at making social contacts, more prone to be stubborn and indecisive. They yielded readily to frustration as well as temptation. So those of you that ate that candy, those who put their gratification on hold and by doing so doubled their pleasure with the second marshmallow were more successful. They showed more social skills, exhibited superior coping mechanisms, and in general were ahead of the game. This was reflected in their grades. They were, simply put, better students and had scored remarkably better on their SAT tests. It sounds incredible, but the ability at age 4 to wait for a second marshmallow was twice as accurate a predictor of a kid's future SAT score than his or her IQ. Can you imagine? Now, I'm not saying that that's 100% accurate, but here's what I love about this. Can y'all see what we're measuring? What were they really looking at? Well, they were looking at the idea of delayed gratification, right? Can you put off what you want now to get something better down the road? Isn't that really the heart of investments if you think about it? Right? You have to give up what you want now so that you have more later. Well, that's delayed gratification, and that's really what they were measuring with these kids. Well, that's exactly the same principle that is in effect when we're talking about emotional intelligence and your ability to manage your emotions effectively when the pressure is on. It's delayed gratification. The way that I like to think about this is that we all have what I call an impulse gate. We all have an impulse gate. And our gate basically works to keep our emotions in check. So what happens is, somebody says something that makes you mad, somebody does something that makes you mad, somebody sends you an email that makes you mad, and something happens, and it's the triggering event, right? The event happens, and it hits you in your head, and it's an emotional trigger, right? And when that emotional trigger hits you, it sets off all the alarm bells, right? Like danger, danger, anger, anger. All those things happen. But as that hits you, the emotional trigger happens, we all have an impulse gate. Your impulse gate holds in your emotions. So the event happens, yes, it makes you mad, but you handle the situation appropriately. You do or say whatever you need to do. Your impulse gate holds in all of your emotion. After you have appropriately handled the situation, you go directly to your venting place of choice. You open your gate, and you let the emotions flow, and you vent it out. The problem for a lot of people, y'all, is they have messed up gates. Don't they? Like they're all stuck open, hinges broken. They don't work properly. So the minute the emotional trigger hits you, it just all comes out. So delayed gratification is our ability to manage our impulse gate. So when the event triggers, it happens, you have the ability to handle the situation appropriately, and then you deal with your emotions at an appropriate time, at an appropriate place. Part of the reason why I think the study is interesting is because they use 4-year-old kids. And actually, child psychologists tell us as early as age 4, your emotional triggers, your emotional responses are already starting to set. Now think about that as early as age 4. Those of you that have young, how many of you all have children about that age? Look at all that, there's quite a few of you. Think about, where do children at age 4 learn those emotional responses? Well, they learn from the mom and dad, right? Mom, dad, teachers, other adults around them. So really, we learn habits. So what happens is if every day your dad had a bad day at work, he came home and he threw his briefcase and he yelled, that becomes normal behavior, right? They also learn it from what works. So what have you all heard, and since a lot of you have kids, what have you all heard? If a toddler is having a tantrum, what are you supposed to do? Walk away. Right, ignore it, walk away, right? Because if we don't, then we're teaching them, aren't we, that if that's how you get what you want. Now that's not always easy. For those of you that are parents, I say that with a lot of love, because it isn't easy, is it? When your kid's acting out in Target, I want this, and you start looking around like, shh. Right? Finally, like, fine, just take it, just take it, just take it. You're embarrassing, mommy. Take it. But we all kind of forget the longer term ramifications, because what's happening is we're teaching them that if they have a tantrum, if they yell, they scream, and they react inappropriately, then we give them what they want. It's so cute when they're 4. It's not as cute when they're 40 and they're in the cubicle next to you. Because we learn habits. One of the things that I think is really great, though, is that if we look at it that way, what we're saying is that it is indeed a habit. Y'all, it's not genetic. It's learned. Now, you might have been doing this since you were 4, which means it's a pretty ingrained habit. But it's a habit, and habits can be changed. So how do we change? How do we work on our impulse gate? How do we manage delayed gratification so that we're not reacting inappropriately in situations? The goal really is that we have to move from a reaction to a response. We're moving from a reaction to a response, because those are actually 2 different things, aren't they? Best way I've ever heard this explained, a guy named Dr. Tom Miller, and he explains it like this. He says that every single one of us are a horse and a rider. We're a horse and a rider. So our horse is our reaction. It's our habit. Yeah, it runs, jumps, takes off, right? Gone. A horse doesn't pause. A horse doesn't stop to think about, should I stay or should I go? right? A horse just goes. That's our reaction. And y'all, we need our horse because it's our horse that allows you when you put your hand on a hot stove, and you go, bah! That's your horse. If you didn't have your horse, you'd put your hand on a hot stove and think, is that burning flesh I smell? Be a little slow on the giddy up, right? So we need our horse. But we all also have a rider. And our rider is our response. Our rider always has the ability to rein in your horse. So in those situations, the event happens, it triggers it in your head. We have to keep that impulse gate in check. The key is you have to move things from a reaction to a response. And I'll tell you one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned, and y'all, I promise you it is so simple. It's so simple I almost feel silly. And people look at me and think, is that all you've got? Really? That's all you got? I promise you I say this with so much love and humility because it works. You have got to teach yourself to pause before responding. Pause before responding. We're not going to react. We're going to pause before responding. And I will tell you, if you teach yourself that habit, and don't wait to try to implement this until you're in the heat of the moment. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Somebody comes in your office, yelling, screaming, ranting, raving, telling you what you did wrong, why you messed up. In that moment is not the time to try to teach yourself to pause before responding. Teach yourself ahead of time. Get in the habit of it. Every time somebody asks you a question, pause before responding. Every time you type an email, pause before sending. When your child asks for something, pause before responding. When you get yourself in the habit of pausing before responding, I promise you, you start to take back control of that impulse gate. We've all been on the flip side of this, and I loved when she said that, you know, sometimes you may have walked by my office where you might have seen some stuff, because we've all been there. You know, we are all human. And I think we've all had that moment maybe where in our head we realize, I probably need to work on that response rather than the reaction. I'm going to share a video with you. I think this is just fun. So I'll give you something to think about, and then we'll use it and keep going, go forward. just think, oh, sometimes it would feel good, wouldn't it? I will tell you one of my all-time favorite lessons. If you take one thing from today, please take this, because this to me is the foundation. We have to remind ourselves sometimes it's better to do good than to feel good. Sometimes it's better to do good than to feel good. It would feel good, wouldn't it? Just bang a car. It would feel good to tell them what you think about them. It would feel good just to send that email. It would feel good. But is it going to do you any good in the long run? And that's where we take back control. Now that's the difference between a reaction and a response. I'll tell you what I find happens when it comes to understanding emotional intelligence. Most of us as adults, and let's face it, most of us in the room are women as well, how many of y'all have heard, let's just do a quick show of hands, how many of y'all have heard that you should not have emotions at work? There's no emotions in the workplace, right? There's no crying in baseball. Exactly. We've all probably heard that message at some point. Y'all, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. That doesn't even make any sense. Y'all, we are emotional beings. We have emotion. There's no such thing as an emotion-ectomy. You cannot surgically remove emotion. It doesn't work that way. We have to have them, yes.
So if you're told that you don't not supposed to bring emotions to the workforce, what's your response to that?
Okay, so if you've been told that you shouldn't bring emotions to the workplace, what's your response to that? Here's how I approach that, is that it's not about eliminating emotion, it's about not reacting emotionally. That's the difference. It's okay to have an emotion. It's okay to state the emotion. It's okay to say, I'm very frustrated with this situation. I'm very angry about this issue. I'm very disappointed in what happened. It's okay to have it. It's okay to state it. It's not okay to dramatize your emotion. Alright? It's not okay to slam your fist on the table, throw things across the room, yell, scream, cuss, stomp down the hall, slap the door, burst into tears. That is not acceptable. Okay? It's okay to have them. It's not okay to dramatize them. And here's the catch with your question, is that we have to reframe it. It's okay to have an emotion. The goal is not emotional elimination. And y'all, if you try to make that your objective, if that becomes your goal, well, I need to be, emotionally, no emotions, I have to, eliminate emotions, that is a goal you will never achieve. It is impossible. You will never reach that goal. And y'all realize the more you tell yourself that that's what you should be doing and you're not doing it, y'all know how we talk to ourselves, right? Yeah, we tell ourselves, no, I'm so bad. I can't help it, I'm just a crier. I can't help it, I'm just a crier. I've always been a crier. And here's the problem, the more you tell yourself you can't help it, you just cry, what do? Cry. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, that's it. And I don't know about y'all, but I believe this is true, it's my personal 2 cents. But I think once you've convinced yourself it is so, then you have to justify and defend why it's so. So it's like, I can't help it, I'm just a crier. I've always been a crier. My mama was a crier too. Like it's genetic. It's not genetic. The message is that you have to stop telling yourself that you can't have emotion. That you're never going to achieve. What you do have to start telling yourself is, I will choose how and when I'm going to dramatize my emotion. I'm going to choose how I communicate about my emotions. And that's really what people initially wanted. Because y'all think about it, and if I were to give you an example, think about non-emotional. That word makes me mad. I get all riled up. Because I just think that's the most ridiculous thing of non-emotional. Y'all think about that for a second. Non-emotional. So let's say, for example, that you are my employee. And let's say that you really messed up. I mean, you're in big trouble, lady. You are lucky you still had a job messed up. Oh, you're barely still here, lady. And I pull you in as your boss, and I sit you down, and this is serious, and it is bad, and you are in big trouble, and I'm writing you up. And as we're going through this whole thing that's really bad and really awful, if I'm your boss and I am totally non-emotional, what other words would you use to describe me in that situation? Cold.
Heartless.
Heartless. Callous. obtuse. Y'all realize those are still kind of emotions, aren't they? They're just all the bad ones. So non-emotional is still an emotion. The goal is not to be non-emotional. The goal is emotional control. That's the difference. It's okay to have it. It's not okay to dramatize it. And y'all think about how true that is. I mean, emotional elimination, I like some emotions. Some emotions are good emotions, right? I kind of like happy. I'm a big fan of love. That's a good one too, isn't it? How about joy? So if we were eliminating all of our emotions, we wouldn't have any positive ones either. So it's not about elimination. It truly is about emotional control. And here's the deal. Even the negative emotions, even the anger, the frustration, the embarrassment, the jealousy, y'all realize that those negative emotions are a catalyst for action. It's the emotion that gets us to do stuff. We can logically and analytically know that we need to do something. But until we're emotionally invested in it, we're probably not going to take action. Isn't that true? Have you ever in your career, and I'm sure this isn't true here, but in some other career, life, another job, have you ever worked with that person who hated their job? Y'all know that, but that's just miserable, right? You know that coworker that complains to you constantly? It's so bad. I hate it. Boss is a jerk. Did it again. But they complain to you so much, you seriously just want to pop them in the back of the head. Which I should have mentioned is the first rule of emotional intelligence, no pity. Yeah. But you know what I mean, where you want to look at them and just kind of shake them and say, if you're that miserable, do something about it. Or quit complaining, for Pete's sake, right? That's kind of what happens. But what we have is a tipping point. We have a tipping point. And the tipping point can be something big, it can be something small, and we don't always even know what it is, right? That same annoying coworker that all of a sudden one day they're like, that's it, I'm out of here. They grab their coat and they're storming out the door, and everyone's looking at each other like, what happened? Does anyone know what happened? What happened? We don't even know what happened. Because that was their tipping point. This is one of my favorite sayings. When the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same, you'll change. Now, when we say pain, in our instance here, we're not talking physical pain, right? We're talking emotional pain, mental pain. You know what I'm talking about, where you're just not happy, you're just blue, you're just, right? Just not really feeling it. But that's a known pain. And change, oh, that's some scary stuff right there, isn't it? It's scary. Change, we don't know what we're going to get. Right? So think about what happens. It's like, well, I hate my job, but at least I know what kind of job I'm going to have, right? I know what I'm going to get every day when I go in. My boss is a jerk, but at least I know what kind of jerk they are, right? But the pain of change, what if I get a new job and it's even worse, right? So we stay with a known pain until there is some sort of a tipping point, a catalyst for action that challenges us, it catapults us into taking a different path. Eliminating emotion. We were trying to not listen to our emotion, pretend like our emotions don't exist. It's highly likely if we did that, we would never do anything. Because it's our emotions that help us do that. My all-time favorite example of this, and I will tell you, this story to me is one of the best of all time. It actually happened in 2010, so I don't know how many of y'all remember this, but to me it is absolutely priceless. It is a perfect illustration of what we were talking about. Does anybody remember the guy, Steven Slater? Does this ring a bell for anybody? Okay, no, y'all, this is the guy. This is the guy. He was a flight attendant for JetBlue Airlines. This is the best story ever, y'all. Seriously, this makes me want to fly JetBlue. All right, seriously. This is the guy. He was a flight attendant. He based in New York. He was on a flight flying into New York, and apparently he had some issues with some of the passengers. So as they are taxiing in, you'll imagine being on this plane. As they're taxiing in, he gets on the PA system and cusses out all the passengers. Could you imagine me looking at the person next to you like, is he talking to us? That's actually the best part. So they pull it, and he cusses out the passengers. He grabs 2 beers, which is my favorite part of the story. He opens the door, which releases the emergency evacuation slide. With his 2 beers, slides down the slide, walks to the employee parking lot, and drives himself home. I am pretty sure it was about the time he was cracking open the 2nd beer. SWAT team showed up to arrest him. Apparently that's illegal. Imagine witnessing that. I mean, how awesome. Why can't I be on that flight? first bad day on the job. His first difficult customer. I think he had a little pent-up aggression, you know what I'm talking about? I don't think he was processing his emotions effectively. I think that's the root of it. I think that's exactly what happens. I always tease and say that to me is what the whole point of this session is for me, is that I want to give every one of you in this room just a little something, a little nudge, a little idea, a little concept, a little trick, something so that not one of you ever have a 2-beer and evacuation sign moment. Although an evacuation sign out your window might kind of rock, but that would kind of be cool. That's what emotional intelligence is. It's not elimination. The key components of emotional intelligence really are, these are the 4 basic components. Talking about self-awareness, meaning you have to be aware that you have feelings. You have to have social awareness. That means that you know other people have feelings. You have to have self-management. That means you have to have a process for managing your emotions. And you have to have relationship management, which means you have to be able to communicate with other people when they have emotions. I'll tell you where I want us to focus, though, is I think it's important that we understand emotional intelligence, first and foremost, is an awareness of your feelings. And the fact that you ask the question, what do I do when that happens, that's a big part of it. You know, we have to really shift our mindset to saying, you know what, it's okay. I'm aware that I have feelings. I'm also aware you have feelings. And your feelings may be different than my feelings. So it's okay that I have them. The catch is, and this is what we're really looking for, is that I have to be able to manage those moods, don't I? I have to be able to say, yes, I'm mad about this, but I also have to manage my mood so that it doesn't get in the way of my work. If y'all ever work with that person, like, just can't handle it, so they have that thing, like, I'm just so upset, I'm just so upset, I just can't even focus. I just can't work. I'm gonna have to leave early. I just can't even focus, I'm just so upset. How do these people get away with that? Are you kidding me? I mean, y'all, seriously, I could have had the world's worst morning, couldn't I? World's worst morning. But could you imagine if I walked up here after Shannon introduced me and I said, you know, y'all, I'm having a bad day, I'm just not feeling it, so you've got a handout if you want to ask some questions. Right? I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of morning I have, it doesn't matter what I'm feeling. I still have to stand up here and do my shtick, don't I? And you know what? So do you. That's impulse gate. That's what we're talking about. That's what emotional intelligence is really all about. Now, when I say it's not genetic, I say this with love, y'all, I really do. I kind of tell it myself, but I feel like we know each other well enough that you won't judge. I tend to be a kind of type A workaholic person. I'm working constantly, nonstop, and I travel. That's why this for me is so nice. I travel so much. I literally live out of a suitcase. I spend about 75% of my life on the road. So I spend a lot of time just going 90 miles an hour. That's kind of my personality. I'm going 90 miles an hour. I walk fast, talk fast, make fast decisions. I'm like this all the time. I'm going. And because I tend to be like that, I do not have a lot of tolerance. I don't have a lot of patience, especially for stupid people. And they are everywhere. If you don't believe me, go to the airport. I promise you, the airport's chock full of them. And I'll tell you, this truly for me became it really became an issue. I was getting irritated, annoyed, and stressed out on my way to the airport in anticipation of like how irritated, annoyed, and stressed out I'd be once I arrived. Because I get to the airport and I'm going 90 miles an hour. You know, I've got 82 emails I need to send, 42 phone calls I need to make before I get on the plane. Let's go. And I would get to the airport and I'm like, let's go. And it's like the whole entire airport and everyone in it is moving in slow motion. Y'all would have like, oh, I mean, I would get so frustrated. And my least favorite part, and I know y'all can relate to this, I have issues. No, let me be clear. TSA has issues with me. Apparently I look high risk. Go figure. And y'all know that feeling. I get to TSA and I'm like, Mom, let's go. And y'all know you try to pick the right line, right? You're like, okay, family with a stroller and 8 kids. Nope. Right? Couple that looks like they're 98 years old. Nope. Right? You're trying to pick the line. It doesn't matter what lane I get in, really. And I'm the one, and my emotions tend, y'all might have noticed I make faces. So my emotions tend to show on my face. So I'm in line and I'm behind people and I'm like, ugh. I mean, I'm thinking, laptop out of the bag, right? my mother says, and I don't know if she's right, but she does say, that I get randomly selected for digital screening all the time. And I'm not one of those nice people. Like, y'all know that I'd be like, no problem, I feel much safer now. I am not that person. I look at the TSA and I'm like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? If you see me at DFW, I'm the one standing there like this. Right? And my whole theory was, if I looked irritated and annoyed, then they would have to speed up, because clearly, I'm in a hurry. Apparently, that is not how they see it. Apparently, they think it means slow down and annoy her. I don't. I mean, I finally get to TSA and I'm like, speed walking to my gate. I'm forever walking behind like a family of 6, right? They're all holding hands, walking. I'm like Emmett Smith, trying to find a hole in the line. I mean, crazy. And then, and I don't know how y'all feel about this, but the best thing and the worst thing at the airport, if you're a speed walker, are the moving walkways. Right? I'm like the bionic woman on those things. Right? It's like, and I am forever behind the person who's lounging across. And y'all, they have a sign. Here's a sign. Walk left, stand right. I don't care if you stand. Just stand to the right. And y'all know this is the what not to do, this is the bad. I mean, I'm like behind people going, excuse me, this is not a ride, people, let's go. Very inappropriate. I mean, at some point, I was not good. And so, I don't know what y'all do when you've had a bad day, but I had a bad day. I called my friend Rebecca. She travels like I do. She can appreciate my travel drama. I'm so upset, this happened, and she laughed at me. Now, I don't know about y'all, when I'm mad, I don't want to be laughed at. I said, are you laughing at me? She said, yeah, you're funny. This is in no way funny. Right? She then, in that moment, said to me the words we all hate to hear. She said, you need to practice what you preach. So my former friend, Rebecca, she reminded me that I need to think about my circles. And she's talking about, if anybody's familiar with Stephen Covey's old school and his circles. Basically what he says is this, is we all have around us this little circle that is our circle of influence. Those are the things you have the power to do something about, to change, to modify, to adapt, to do something about. We all also have a bigger circle around us that is our circle of concern. Those are the things you can be concerned about, but you cannot necessarily change. You know, the idea is, instead of reacting, we're going to pause and respond. So we're going to ask the question, is this my circle of influence, or is this my circle of, it is my circle of influence. Guess what you have to do? Yes, do something, change it. You'll approach it differently, handle it differently, do something. We get caught up in what I call kind of all or nothing thinking. You know, we are go big or go home people. We think in all or nothing kind of mentality, right? So it's all or nothing. We're either all in or we're all out. And I will tell you, I had a woman one time, it was so funny to me. She was telling me that she hated her job. She said that her boss, and she said this in front of the entire room. She said, my boss is evil. She said, I work with evil people. She said, it's just awful. She said, my boss is the spawn of Satan. That was my boss. And as she's going on this tangent about how awful her job was, I looked at her and I said, woo! I said, that sounds bad. You better quit. No, when I said that to her, what do you think she said to me? I can't. And I said, but it sounds so bad. Why not? And what do you think she said to that? That's right. It's not that bad. I need the money. I have kids. I have to put food on their table, a roof over their head, and shoes on their feet. And here's the deal. I appreciate that because she did exactly what a lot of us do. She got caught up in all or nothing thinking. For whatever reason, in her head, she had decided she had 2 choices in her life. Either she worked at this horrible, awful job for the rest of her pathetic, miserable existence, or she quit tomorrow and she would be homeless, living on the street, and her children would have no shoes. I would like an option C, please. And that to me is kind of the idea. Remember the exercise, turn it into a 6, and I said you have to see through new eyes. Now what happens is we get caught up in all or nothing thinking. Once it's a Roman numeral, it's really hard to see it any other way. And your challenge is you have to take that and say, what can I do? Okay, I think y'all have been sitting a long time, so I want to have you do a quick exercise. So this is how we're going to do this. And this is going to be challenging, so you're going to have to follow directions. You will notice that some of you have balloons under your seat or in your immediate vicinity. If you have a balloon, your job is to blow the balloon up and tie it off. All right, just real quick, just blow the balloon up and tie it off. If you are not willing or able to blow up a balloon, your job is to delegate the balloon blowing task to someone else. All right, so blow the balloon up and tie it off. Now, while you are doing that, those of you that do not have a balloon, your job is to find a partner who has a balloon. All right, so you should have a balloon between partners. Find a partner. You're going to stand up and find some place to move around, okay? So I'm going to give you just a second. Stand up, find a place to move around. All right, so find a partner who has a balloon. If you have to do a group of 3, that's okay too. 2 to 3 people, find a partner who has a balloon.
Do we need to? I don't know. I have a headache from smiling.
All right, well, this is going to be simple. I'm going to give you an instruction. You're going to have to listen. Are y'all ready? Okay, here's what you're going to do. We are going to pretend that we are a corporation and I'm the CEO. I just like the way that sounds. Right? Yeah. As a CEO, I like to give my team projects, tasks, and assignments. And with those project tasks and assignments are going to come rules, restrictions, guidelines, and of course obstacles to overcome. So the project is this. I would like to see my team play a little volleyball. Just a little balloon volleyball. You're just going to gently pass the balloon back and forth. All right, rules, restrictions, and guidelines. First of all, don't let the balloons hit the chairs, the floors, the ceiling, whatever. Keep them afloat. And obstacles to overcome. I would like for all of you to take your dominant hand. If you are right-handed, that is your right hand. If you are left-handed, that is your left hand. And put it behind your back. You can only use your left dominant hand. Go. A little cooperative volleyball. That's what they do. That's right. So I want you to combine teams. If you're in a group of 3, you have to find another person. Get in groups of 4 or 5. Hang on to all the balloons. All right, get in groups of 4 or 5. Now, same exercise. Block with the volleyball. Same rules. Don't let the balloons hit the chairs. If you have more, hold on. If y'all have more than one balloon, hold on. Hold on. If y'all have more than one balloon, all the balloons need to be going, so don't put any balloons down. And now, you have more people and you have more balloons. I think you should get to use both sides. However, you can only use your elbows. Besides my own amusement. There is a point. So here's what I want you to do, and I'm going to give you just a split second. This is real quick, like 30 seconds. Talk to the people around you, and I want you to come up with as many as you can, but at least one answer to this question. How was that exercise? like managing your emotions in the workplace. How is that exercise like managing emotions in the workplace, okay? Go, 30 seconds. Talk to the person again. Managing emotions in the workplace. Yeah.
You feel uncomfortable, and you still have to maintain control.
Excellent. When you feel uncomfortable, but you still have to maintain control. That's a great answer. What else? Yeah.
When you're out of your comfort or out of your element, it's frustrating to figure out how to.
Excellent. When you're outside of your element, you're doing something different, sometimes it's hard to figure out how to negotiate or how to do it. Excellent. Yeah.
You had to adapt to where the balloon landed.
Yeah, you had to adapt to where it landed. You didn't always get to pick, did you? So you had to be flexible. In this instance, physically. Yeah.
So you choose the rules, and those that are going to keep it in play, keep it from hitting anything. You might have broken a couple rules.
You might have broken the rules. Okay. All right, I'll tell you what, those are all good. Oh, we have one more over here? Yeah.
Just teamwork and patience.
Teamwork and patience. If you work together, maybe communicated it. Okay, yeah, one more.
So to keep the balloons in the air, I actually knelt down.
Oh, clever.
Because it kept going down lower.
Excellent. She kneeled down, so you adapted to what was happening so that you were able to do it.
But
Very
as a
nice.
team, not individually.
Excellent, though, as a team. I'm impressed. All of those are really good. Yeah, okay, one more. Yes.
You have to stay focused because it kept on moving.
You have to stay focused because it kept moving and changing. That is true. You know, all of those are right, and I think those are great lessons. There's a couple things I want you to think about as well. First of all, I think it is absolutely true when it comes to managing emotions, dealing with difficult people, dealing with difficult situations, just like in this game. Did y'all notice the more difficult and challenging I made the exercise, the harder you had to be willing to work to be successful? Y'all, if it were easy, everybody would do it. It's not. It requires work, and the more difficult, more challenging. Y'all, we don't have to have emotional control, emotional intelligence seminars because people are just way too happy. Right? So the more difficult or challenging, the more that we have to be willing to put in the effort. The second thing is that I did notice that I told you, one hand, I told you elbows, but a lot of you cheated. I saw heads, feet. Right? A lot of you broke rules, and you know what? I'm glad you did. Because I think sometimes we get caught up in that tunnel, don't we? Sometimes you have to break the rules. Now, I do not mean that you break the rules of your company and your association or group. What I'm saying, though, is sometimes you have to break your own rules. You have to challenge yourself. We set parameters on ourselves for what we think we are capable of, and what we're good at, and what we can do. And you have to break your own rules. Sometimes the best solutions are outside of what you've always done before. The third thing, and I think this is really important, because just like in dealing with difficult people and difficult situations, dealing with your emotions, I think it's just like in this exercise. Because y'all, in this exercise, if you did nothing, if you took no action, nothing happens. If you want something to be different in your life, you have to do something different. And sometimes it's small steps, sometimes it's little things, but you have to be willing to take action. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be things that are outside of our circle of influence. There are things that are our circle of concern. And that means that we have to have the ability to let it go. Right? It's easy to say, isn't it? Let it go. Just let it roll off your back. You're a tree, you can bend. Right? Easy to say, not so easy to do. I tell a lot of stories about my mom because my mom is crazy. No, she is. It used to be cute. Now we're worried. She's crossed the line. We don't know when this happened. But my mom actually taught me a really, really important lesson because it's about our ability to manage the impulse gate, the delayed gratification, and how do we process our emotions effectively. And it really is the essence of emotional intelligence. Ever since I was a little kid, my mom has done this. I never really got it until I became an adult. But once I became an adult, it really hit me because to this day, my mother does this. When my mom gets really, really mad about something, she gives herself a time limit for how long she's allowed to be mad. So she will literally call me, to this day, she will call me when she's mad, and it's usually at my sister. Don't feel sorry for my sister though, because she calls my sister when she's mad at me. And we call each other when we're mad at her. That's how we love. Family love. That's what we do. But my mom will call me, I'm so mad, this happened, and that happened, but I have to be over it by 3 o'clock because that's my time limit. That is crazy. But you know what? It works. And it doesn't work because at 3 o'clock she's forgotten about it. It works because at 3 o'clock she chooses to move forward. You know, that's what processing our emotions is all about. That's what emotional intelligence is. Remember, the trigger's going to hit, right? It's going to happen. The event hits us. It hits us in our head. Our impulse gate is in check. Delayed gratification. We're not going to react, but rather pause and respond. So we handle the situation using all those good communication skills we did in the last session, right? As soon as the situation is over, you go directly to your venting place of choice, and you open the impulse gate, and you let them have it. And you vent it out. And if you want to yell, yell. If you're a screamer, scream. Right? If you're a thrower, throw. Just don't throw like the remote control throw a pellet. Right? Have somebody you can call. Go for a run. I know. I hear people do that. That works. Right? Journal. That's a great way to vent emotion. I personally do not journal. Journals are evidence. Exhibit A. A journal I got a part of it. But whatever works for you, you vent it out. And here's the catch. You have to allow yourself to fully and completely feel the emotion. Once you feel the emotion, then you can, at the appropriate time, with your time limit, let it go. No, we make the mistake of trying to deny our emotion, trying to minimize our emotion, pretending like we're wrong for having that emotion. I'll bet every one of us in this room at least once has said to ourselves, oh, I am so stupid for being mad about this. So stupid for letting this get to me. You know, every time you say that to yourself, you're increasing exponentially how long it's going to take for you to move past it. The only way you can move past it is when you own it. A much more healthy thing to say is, I don't like the fact that I'm mad about this, but I'm going to get over it. Own it. Once you've owned it, you appropriately express it. You don't burst into tears with the person sitting there. You don't yell or scream. Impulse gate, impulse gate, impulse gate. You handle the situation appropriately. And then own the feeling. If you're mad, be mad. Let it out. And then you can choose to move forward. And y'all, that is processing emotions effectively. The reason why this is so important is because this is long-term emotional intelligence. Now, this is what emotional intelligence is. But I also appreciate that sometimes people think, well, I do okay with that long-term emotion. My problem is in the heat of the moment. Well, I've got news for you. They work together. The way I look at it is this, and this is truly my kind of big thing I really want you to take, is that I think like this. I think every single one of us, on the inside, we have what I call your emotional bucket. It's your bucket. When I go north, I have to say bucket. But here you all get me. It's an emotional bucket, right? It's on the inside. And your emotional bucket is a holding area for all things emotion. So it's layered. There's 3 layers in your emotional bucket. The bottom layer of your bucket are your past traumas. And you all know about past traumas. We've all dealt with those, right? We've all had a traumatic experience. Maybe you had a traumatic childhood. Maybe you had, maybe you lost somebody early. Maybe you went through a really, really horrific divorce. You know, we all have past traumas. But we all also know, if you've ever talked to a counselor or a therapist, they tell you that you have to be able to move through it, right? It's not that you forget it. No, you don't forget it. We never forget. We carry the emotional scars with us forever, but we allow ourselves to move through it. And the reason why that's so important is because if you don't do that, it'll fill up your whole bucket, won't it? Your bucket will be overflowing with past traumas, and there won't be room for anything else. And we need room for our second layer, which is what I call your current stressors. We're going to talk about stress in November. Your current stressors. You know, those are all the big things that you're currently stressed about. Right? But here's the deal. You have to save that space for legitimate stressors, like the real stuff, important stuff. Maybe you have a child that's going through a really difficult time. Right? Maybe there's some money challenges you're concerned about, but those are legitimate stressors. But if you let every single little thing stress you out and fill up your bucket, it would overflow, wouldn't you? So if you're mad all the time because it's like, oh, traffic. The line at the Starbucks is too long. Right? There's no room in your bucket for anything else. You're mad about all the little stuff. And we have to have room for our third layer, which is what I call whatever you're feeling right now. So I'm mad at you until 2 o'clock. I'm mad at you until 4 o'clock. And you really made me mad. I'm mad at you until tomorrow at noon. Right? But I really have to be over being mad at you at 2 because I'm pretty sure you're going to make me mad and I need room in my bucket for you. Right? And you know, that's kind of how it works. Is things come in your bucket and things come out of your bucket. If you hold on to everything forever, there's no room in your bucket for anything else. And y'all think about how that works in the heat of the moment. Right? In the heat of the moment, your ability to maintain your composure. Remember your impulse gate? Delayed gratification. The mad's still there. You're still mad. It's just not coming out. Where is it when it's not coming out? It's sitting in your bucket. But if your bucket is all full of all kinds of other stuff, there's no room for the mad. Right? You've all heard the expression, that person has a really short fuse. What that means is they have a really full bucket. The key to emotional intelligence is good bucket management. You got to manage the bucket. Things come in your bucket, things go out of your bucket. But you have to manage your bucket. I think the key to being able to do that is that I think everybody needs a little visual aid, like a little bucket. If y'all have a little bucket you can put on your desk to remind you when that email comes in and you start to get mad, and you got to think to yourself, you know what, there is no room in my bucket for that. And if you're working with a coworker that was here today as well, when they come into you and ask you for something, you can look at them and say, there's no room in my bucket for you today. Try me tomorrow. Right? What do y'all think? If you had a bucket, would that help? Yeah. All right, I have buckets for everybody, so as you're leaving today, you can take the bucket with you. We'll put it by the back door so everybody can take their bucket. I want every one of you to have something that you can take and will remind you that you choose. And I think understanding how emotions happen, how those triggers happen, how those habits present themselves, I think truly the key to understanding emotional intelligence is an awareness of feelings and our ability to have a way to process it. I also think that builds in empathy for other people.
Buckets, you guys are great fun as well, so go get your buckets. Thanks everyone, please grab some food on the way out, or we love it if you can stick around and hang out for networking. Thank you very much, and we're going to have Julie back in November, as she mentioned, talking about stress. So we hope that